If you go into a local bike shop nowadays, you'll find a huge selection of tyres. We've got tyres for different conditions, different bikes. Also, we've got 3 popular wheel sizes nowadays, so we're not going to get into that. We're just going to look at the performance of a tyre. There's 3 things that affect that really. That comes down to the tread pattern, the rubber compound and the carcass of that tyre. But let's just look at how that tread pattern affects the ride of your bike. First, we'll talk about knob size. I'm talking about the rubber knobs on here, nothing else. This is what I'd call a low profile tyre. You see the rubber knobs are really small, quite low to the tyre, so that's going to work really well on hard packed surfaces and that'll roll really well. That isn't going to stop you as well as something with bigger knobs on there though. But on a hard packed surface, maybe cross country, that's going to roll really fast and actually grip really well. Move on up to something somewhere in the middle. You see how they're getting taller now? These rubber knobs are going to bite better into the soft stuff. Also offer you more braking, but maybe not grip quite so well on the hard pack stuff. Going up right to the top end with a downhill tyre, these knobs are much taller. That's going to get more rubber on the floor, going to bite into soft ground really well, offer you really good braking, so nice and tall. And also you've got a big pronounced side knob on there for really good grip in the turns. After the size of the knobs, the next thing that's really important is the spacing in the tread pattern. The general rule of thumb is the closer they are together, like this, they're really jammed in the middle tyre, the better that's going to be in hard pack conditions. As you move on to this tyre, it's their much larger spacing in between the knobs. That's going to work better in the mud because it's going to clear much better, meaning the mud isn't going to stick in that tyre. But also it's just you'll find more edges in here to grip into that mud. Tyre width is quite similar to that, conditions wise. A thin tyre is going to cut through mud nicely, whereas a big wider tyre is going to suit more aggressive dry conditions. A big wide tyre might float across the top of mud in really bad conditions. So let's actually look at the tread on the tyre. You've got the centre knobs and the side knobs. These are the ones that you're going to use when the bike's leant over, so really useful for cornering obviously. This is a downhill tyre with a big raised side knob, consistent spacing. That's going to give you really good grip once you've got that bike leant over. Going down to a cross-country tyre, obviously much smaller, less pronounced side knob. It's going to roll much faster, but it's going to have much less grip in the corners. Looking at the centre knobs, starting with this downhill tyre, again, big knobs in the middle of there. They're also directional, as you can see. This front edge is ramped, so that tyre is going to roll quite quickly, but on the back of it you've got a 90-degree angle, so that's your braking edge. So you've got really powerful braking with this tyre. Obviously the payoff of that is it's not going to roll as fast as a lower profile in the middle. Occasionally you see downhillers actually cut these middle knobs if that track doesn't have quite so much braking and it's a faster, more important to have a fast rolling tyre on there. Going down to the cross-country tyre, you see much more regular tread pattern in the middle, much lower, super fast for rolling, but for extreme braking, you're just not going to slow down as quickly as you would with a big raised edge in the middle. A lot of tyres are also directional. By that I mean there'll be a little arrow on the side of the tyre and it'll show you which way to run that tyre. They can sometimes be different front to rear. Sometimes you want that front tyre to grip a little bit better and you want the characteristics of the tyre on the back to maybe roll a little bit better. There are also some tyres that are front or rear specific. The one that comes to mind for me is the old Maxxis Minions. Front and rear tyres are different tread patterns, but I know a lot of the old downhill guys used to just like the characteristics of the front one and choose that on the front and back. Looking at the different riding disciplines, it's fair to say that the cross-country guys and girls tend to go for a tyre that's going to roll faster and be light rather than a big heavyweight tyre that might offer a load of grip but be slow. So there's a tyre that's going to be nice and fast, lightweight, but could punch quite easily, and it isn't going to work in extreme cases of steep and muddy trails quite so well. Downhill, the opposite end of the scale, you go for a bigger, heavier tyre, much more rubber on there, where grip is really, really important. Some tracks, okay, maybe rolling resistance might be important, and you might think about going a little bit lower on the middle, but generally you need a bigger, stronger tyre with much bigger knobs on there. Enduro sits somewhere in the middle, maybe erring towards downhill a little bit, but you really can't run a super heavyweight tyre because you might be riding big distances and you need a fast rolling tyre. Also, you might be riding 5 stages with all different types of conditions, so you can't stick a mud tyre on or a dry tyre. You might go for an intermediate tyre and just run something in the middle and hope it works for all those stages. So there's tyre tread pattern explained. As you can see, there's loads of variables there. For more videos from GMBN, you can click up here where myself, Mark and Si talk about what tyre pressures we use. We sort of cross the board from cross country, enduro and downhill, so click up there if you want to see that video, or click down here if you want to see Mark describe and explain suspension forks. Also, if you've liked this video and you found it useful, click like down below, and you can also click on me if you don't want to miss any videos from GMBN.